Sometimes the mind creates entire conversations that never actually happen. You replay what someone might say, imagine how you would respond, and build an argument step by step inside your head. Hours later, the discussion still hasn't taken place, yet it feels strangely real. This habit isn't random. It's the brain's way of preparing for social threats, protecting your ego, and trying to stay one step ahead in situations that may never even occur. Today, we will talk about why you imagine arguments that never happen. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. The strange habit of imaginary arguments. Have you ever caught yourself imagining an argument with someone, even though the conversation never actually happened? Maybe you're replaying a past situation in your head, thinking about what you should have said. Or perhaps you're preparing for a confrontation that might never occur. This mental habit is surprisingly common. Many people create detailed conversations in their minds, complete with responses, counter-arguments, and emotional reactions. These imagined discussions can feel incredibly real, even though they exist entirely inside your head. At first, this might seem strange, but it is actually part of how the human brain processes social interactions. Your mind is constantly trying to prepare you for potential situations. However, when this habit becomes frequent, it can lead to stress, frustration, and unnecessary emotional tension. Understanding why your brain creates these imaginary arguments can help you gain control over them and prevent them from draining your mental energy. 2. The brain's preparation system. One major reason people imagine arguments is because the brain is trying to prepare for possible conflict. Humans evolved in social groups where misunderstandings or disagreements could affect relationships and status within the group. Because of this, the brain developed a system that anticipates potential social challenges. When your mind predicts that a difficult conversation might occur, it begins rehearsing responses. This rehearsal process is meant to help you feel more prepared and confident if the situation actually happens. In moderation, this can be useful. Athletes, speakers, and negotiators often mentally rehearse conversations or performances before they occur. The problem arises when the brain continues rehearsing long after it becomes helpful. Instead of preparing you, the imagined argument becomes a mental loop that keeps repeating. 3. Unresolved emotions from the past. Imaginary arguments often originate from unresolved emotions connected to past experiences. If you felt misunderstood, embarrassed, or hurt during a previous conversation, your brain may revisit that moment repeatedly. The mind tries to fix the situation by imagining what you could have said differently. It creates new versions of the conversation where you explain yourself better or respond more confidently. Unfortunately, because the past cannot be changed, these mental replays rarely bring closure. Instead, they keep the emotional memory active. The brain believes it is solving a problem, but in reality, it is simply reliving the same moment again and again. 4. The need to feel heard. Sometimes imaginary arguments appear because you feel like your thoughts or feelings were never fully expressed. When a conversation ends before you have the chance to explain yourself properly, the mind may continue the discussion internally. In your imagination, you finally say the things you wanted to say. You defend your perspective, clarify misunderstandings, and express emotions that remained unspoken. This internal dialogue can provide temporary relief because it gives your mind the feeling of completing the conversation. However, if it becomes a habit, it can keep your attention trapped in conflicts that no longer exist in reality. 5. Overthinking social situations. People who naturally overthink are more likely to imagine arguments that never happen. When the brain constantly analyzes social interactions, it begins predicting potential misunderstandings or conflicts. Even if no disagreement exists yet, the mind prepares for one. For example, you might imagine how someone will react to something you plan to say tomorrow. Then you imagine their response, and your response to that response. Before long, you have constructed an entire debate that exists only in your thoughts. While this mental simulation feels productive, it often creates stress about situations that never actually occur. 6. The illusion of control. Imaginary arguments can also create the illusion of control. When you mentally rehearse a conflict, it feels like you are preparing yourself for any possible outcome. The brain believes that if it analyzes every possible scenario, you will be able to handle the situation perfectly. Unfortunately, real conversations rarely follow the scripts we create in our minds. People respond unpredictably, emotions shift, and situations evolve in unexpected ways. As a result, these imagined arguments rarely match reality. Instead of giving you control, they often increase anxiety about interactions that might never happen. 7. Stress and emotional release. Another reason the mind creates imaginary arguments is as a way to release built-up emotional tension. When you feel frustrated or angry but cannot express those emotions directly, your mind may create a mental conversation where you finally express them. In this imagined scenario, you speak confidently, defend yourself, and resolve the conflict. This can act as a psychological pressure valve, temporarily reducing emotional stress. However, if the mind repeats this process too often, it can keep the feeling of conflict alive, rather than allowing it to fade. 8. Personality and sensitivity. Certain personality traits make people more likely to experience imaginary arguments. Individuals who are highly self-aware, emotionally sensitive, or deeply reflective often analyze social interactions more than others. They notice subtle details in tone, body language, or wording that others might ignore. While this sensitivity can make someone empathetic and thoughtful, it can also increase the likelihood of replaying conversations mentally. The brain becomes highly attentive to possible misunderstandings, which encourages more internal debates about what was said and what could have been said differently. 9. Breaking the mental argument loop. The key to reducing imaginary arguments is recognizing when the mind is entering this pattern. Once you notice the internal debate starting, you can interrupt it by shifting your attention to the present moment. Physical activity, writing down your thoughts, or focusing on your breathing can help redirect your mind away from repetitive thinking. Another helpful approach is asking yourself a simple question: is this conversation actually happening right now? If the answer is no, remind yourself that you don't need to solve a conflict that only exists in your imagination. Over time, practicing this awareness helps weaken the habit of mental arguments. 10. Letting conversations stay in the real world. The most important step is learning to allow conversations to remain in the real world instead of continuing them endlessly in your mind. Not every interaction requires a perfect response, and not every misunderstanding needs to be analyzed deeply. Most people are focused on their own thoughts and rarely remember small conversational mistakes. By accepting that social interactions are naturally imperfect, you remove the pressure to mentally rehearse every possible argument. When you stop feeding these imaginary debates with attention, they gradually fade. Your mind becomes calmer, and your energy returns to the present moment where real conversations and real understanding can actually happen. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.